G'day guys, my name's Chris, aka iRidetas, and this is Amity, my Suzuki VL250, and this is the latest budget bobber build. I'm back. I know it's been a long time between drinks, but I'm back, and this bike will be the budget bobber build. G'day guys, my name's Chris, aka iRidetas, and it is a long time between drinks, but I'm back with a new build. This is a Suzuki VL250. It's an Intruder LC. It's a real beginner's bike. It's comparable to something like an XV250, which you know I love because I've owned a couple of them, and the Virago 250 basically put my channel a fraction on the map of YouTube, and a lot of you are here as subscribers because of that build, and I thought I'd go back to my roots and grab a VL250, which is sort of the main competition for a Virago or an XV250. It does have a few things that make it a bit different, and to a degree it's probably going to make it easier to modify it to the level that I want to modify it to. You can see I've laid out some of the bits that have arrived already, and we'll go through that in a minute, but I just want to introduce my sponsor. The guys from Chop Them Bob have decided to support me again. They were a great help with the XVS 650 build I did a couple of years ago, and this is actually the hoodie that they sent me. I wear it all the time, I grind in it, I work in it, I wear it on the weekends, I wear it out. I chuck it in the wash, don't tell them, but I chuck it in the dryer too, which is probably not ideal, but it just keeps coming back for more. This is really good quality, and the new supplier that they're using, the hoodies are even better quality. They've also sent me a real cool beanie with the skull design to keep me warm in the cool Tasmanian environment. If you want to check out the merch, if you want to support these guys that help support me, use iRidetas 10 on checkout to save yourself a bit of coin. But guys, without much further ado, let's get into this build and let's run through what's arrived and what my plans are for the VL250 Intruder. I've called it Amity after Amity Affliction. Yeah, let's get into it. The bike that I picked is a VL250. It's a Suzuki Intruder LC. This is a 2011 model, and it's a great little bike. It competes with things like the XVS or Dragstar 250 and the Virago 250, which you know that I love because I've owned a couple of them. And one of the bikes I've done up on the channel that sort of got quite popular was Gilby, the XV250. This bike is a 249cc V-twin. Same as the Virago, it just has a little bit more top end. It's geared a bit differently, and the bike is a bit more Revian top end, where the Virago was more torquey, which this bike out of the box seems to be a little bit better on the highway than what the Virago 250 was. It's a little bit chunkier, it's a little bit heavier. It just feels out of the box a little less dinky than the XV250. And that's great. I think it's going to make an awesome project, and it's for my partner. I'm really keen for her to get onto a bike, get her revs, and I want her to get on a bike that is super cool to look at. I plan on building it in a chopper style or a bobber style with a 70s theme or a 70s vibe, and I'm real excited about it. I'm not going to go patina. I'm going to go paint, just to push myself because people know me for my patina look of my XVS 650, and I just want to make it look different and keep pushing myself. Some of the stuff I'm going to use is from eBay and Amazon, and some of the stuff I'm going to do is fabrication, so it's going to be a mix of both. The bike itself, it's quite chunky. It feels bigger than the 250 implies. It's probably more comparable to the Dragstar 250 than it is actually the Virago, but I've never owned one of those. But they're just a little bit heavier, bigger motorcycle than the Virago. From a modification perspective, this bike has a single backbone, where the Virago has a weird airbox up front, splitting into a dual backbone, which makes putting tanks on it really difficult without serious modification to the underside. To have a single backbone will mean modifying this bike and making it look seriously cool will be a lot easier. 2011 model, it's a bit knocked about. You can see that it's been owned by quite a few learners, and that's fine. There's a little bit of a ding in the tank, which is no problem because I don't really plan on keeping this tank. They're renowned problematic cold starting bikes, and in Suzuki's infinite wisdom, thinking Australia was a hot environment, they didn't install carb heaters on the VL250s that came here. For a place like Tasmania that is cold, it makes starting these bikes a little bit problematic, but I've been messing around and I've got this bike to start pretty consistently. First crank. It is A, very quiet, and B, that is a very big, heavy, clunky exhaust that has to go. So that's one of the modifications I plan on doing. Yeah, I'm really happy with it. It sounds like for $2,000 that I paid for it, that it's overpriced, but a bike in Australia that's got 6 months rego, good tyres, yada, 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 I don't think I overpaid. I think it's about right. And I reckon I'll have spent about $1,000 on parts and things to modify it. So I'm sort of trying to keep it at around that sort of $3,000. The only thing that's wrong with it, this plastic fender is broken. Someone's dropped it and it's snapped the mounts. Doesn't matter because I don't plan on running a fender anyway. And if I do, I've bought a steel one to modify, and that's going to look a whole lot better and less clunky than that. So that can go in the bin. Yeah, I've laid out all the parts that I've bought that have arrived to run through some of the plans that I have. So let me change camera angles and we'll have a look at what we've got. I've been collecting parts for a while because I've been planning on bringing the channel back for a bit now. So I started collecting parts a good while ago. So most of the stuff is here and it's arrived. The main feature will be this little 2-gallon, 8-litre Sportster style or peanut tank. I got that off eBay. It was $127. It's not perfect. Some of the worlds look like my nan did them, but it'll clean up. And I plan this time on using paint. I don't plan on using patina. I want to push myself. I'm not good at paint. I don't have the patience for the prep, but I do plan on painting this bike, but the colour is yet to be revealed. It's a secret. I've got a layback license plate mount, which will make it look a little bit more streamlined. They tend to use these on modified Harley Sportsters. I've got a whiskey throttle, so it'll convert it to a single throttle, which will change the complexity of the sort of right-hand side. Also, am waiting on the arrival of some switches so that I can move all the switch gear from the handlebars down onto the side pods, and that'll sort of just clean up the front end. I've got a Mikuni jet kit, and I'm initially going to put some pods on it. And then from there, I'm going to sort of modify it further and eventually run this Mikuni velocity stack, and this will look fantastic. Fortunately, a VL250 actually runs exactly the same carburetor as what the Virago 250 does. So I understand the Virago 250 carb, so this should be pretty easy to modify using much the same strategies. I've got some round, small mirrors. I've got a chrome sissy bar. This looks fantastic. Again, this comes from eBay. Some fork gators. Not sure if I'm going to run them or not. I haven't decided yet, but I've got them anyway. I've got some 10-inch struts because I have a plan of running a hardtail, but if that sucks, which it is pretty hard on your back, I've also got some 10.5-inch shocks from eBay to sort of make it an easier bike to ride. I don't want it as a show pony. I want it as a bike that can be used for touring and riding and as a daily if need be. So sort of bottom line is it'll probably end up with the shocks on it long term. Got a couple of different headlights. I've got this amber diamond shape or triangular shaped. I've also got this cool 4.5-inch Bates headlight. I'll probably end up using that. I think that would look simpler and more sort of 70s retro, which is the look I'm going for. I'm going to ditch a lot of the hoses, and I've got a filter, a mini breather for the crankcase vent. I've got some halogen indicators and some mounts. I'm not going to bother with LED. I've tried converting LEDs on bikes before. Tried converting to LEDs on bikes before, and it's a nightmare. And you've got to run resistors and diodes, and it's just a nightmare. And I've just decided to go some mini halogens to keep it simple. I've got a rack for the back if I want to use it. Got this ribbed steel fender. I've had this for years. It's been sitting in the shed. That shed years ago got flooded, so it's got a lot of surface rust on it, but it will clean up. I've also got a matching ribbed front fender with some mounts on it. This came off a Harley shovel, I think it was, and I can clean it up, modify it to fit the VL250 if I choose to run a fender. And Tasmania being a wetter climate, it's probably better to. It's also illegal technically to run no fender in Australia, so it might keep the cops off the back of my partner when she's riding if I've got one on it. But I plan on using that to match the 6-inch ribbed fender. Main jet to go with the jet kit. This is a 16-tooth front sprocket. The VL250 runs a 15-tooth. So initially I'm going to go +1 on the front to gear it better for highway. If that's not good enough, then I'll mess with the back. And there's a few choices there, but sprockets for this guy are relatively expensive. This was about 28 bucks. A rear sprocket at 38 tooth is $88 to $100. So I think I'll go with a modified front sprocket to start with, because one on the front is worth about 3 or 4 on the back, and you don't tend to have a longer chain and those sorts of things. So it's usually easier to use a bigger front sprocket than a smaller rear sprocket. Got some Coke bottle retro grips that are black. I'm only planning on using a couple of colours on this bike. I'm not going to reveal what colour I'm going to paint it, but that's the main colour for the tins, and then it's going to be chrome and black. That's all I plan on running on this bike. Got some cool 10-inch mini apes. Got them from eBay. They're going to look fantastic. They're narrower than the standard bars, and so the lines, everything, the cables will fit because it's narrower even though it's slightly taller. So I'm not planning on having to modify any of the cables. Got a cool set of slash cut exhausts. I plan on removing that monstrosity and putting these guys on initially, and then in the back of my mind, as the bike gets more and more modified and heads towards that cool 70s vibe I'm going for, I plan on doing a full custom exhaust, but that'll be down the track. And that might even involve coming up and then on the sissy bar or something like that, maybe with some fishtails, but I still haven't fully decided yet. But initially, I'm going to use these eBay /cut exhausts. This will solve that quiet bike problem. It won't sound like a sewing machine after that. Got a swing arm bag. I've done the triangular one to death, so I've gone a little square one. That was actually a bargain. That was only about 30 bucks from eBay. Of course, I've got the obligatory exhaust wrap. Every man and his dog will tell you that that causes your exhaust to rust, but they don't probably fully understand what this stuff is these days and all it's impregnated with. I've never had an issue. I've never had it actually absorb moisture, let alone rust an exhaust. So I'm happy enough to run that, and I think it's going to look great. I think it'll just keep with that vibe. What else? I've got a rib seat. This is a Highway Hawk seat. I got pleats, ribs to sort of just keep with that 70s vibe. I've got a eBay plate. If I run struts, I'll run springs. If I run the shocks, I won't run springs, just to keep with the vibe. It can look a bit funny if you've got shocks and springs, but we'll see. I've certainly got the springs if I need them. A hinge, a swivel for the seat mount. Yeah, that's a lot of stuff that's already arrived. That's probably half the build series right there. But there is a few more things, and again, they'll arrive and I will use them down the track. So guys, that was a pretty quick overview of some of the parts that I've already bought. Hope you like the choice of bike. I'm pretty stoked with it. I think it's a really good basis for a project. I also checked YouTube, and there's only about 3 that I would rate on YouTube myself, and there's no build series, so it is a little bit of a niche. This is quite a popular bike in Australia, but it doesn't have the modified cult following that the XV250 does, but it runs the same carb and a few other things. So a lot of what I've learnt about the XV250 could be applied to this bike pretty readily, and I'm pretty excited to hopefully be at the forefront of modifying the VL250 for Australia and for the world, and for a lot of new riders out there that want something cool to ride but maybe don't have the confidence to just start hacking into their motorcycle without a bit of guidance from someone like myself. I'm no expert, I'm no mechanic, I'm self-taught. I like to build things in my driveway. Granted, I've got a nice new shed, but I'm gonna still be building this in the driveway so that it sort of makes it accessible to anyone from beginners. I also plan on just making the videos. I don't really care how long they come out this time. In the past, I always worked towards what the algorithm wanted and things, and this time I'm just basically gonna make it, and if you guys wanna watch it, feel welcome to. If you don't, thanks for dropping by. I hope you have a great life. But sort of, I'm really excited about just sort of being a little bit more relaxed. I've got a new day. The videos are going to come out at 3:30 on a Tuesday. So bottom line, next Tuesday, 3:30 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, we're going to get into removing some of the stuff on the VL250 and start the build. So guys, my name's iRidetas. My name is Chris. Until I see you next time, I'm out.